National champions, 1980. The Cardinals have won the national championship. 75th NCAA college basketball champions.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Third Banner Pod. I am Kyle, and I'm joined by Connor. We might get Ty Elliott in here in a little bit. He's having some technical difficulties, so I'm not sure if he will be joining us tonight.
There's a bot. He just can't figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. I don't know if it's something he can figure out or not, but we'll be on here regardless, and we're going to talk about a lot of things going on. So, Connor, I wouldn't say this was our best weekend as Louisville sports fans. I would say that this was kind of rough.
Whatever happened last night, whatever, that's fine. If we would have beaten Kentucky, I wouldn't have cared that we lost to Florida State 16-6 or whatever the score was. I don't even remember what it was.
16-6. Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of where I think, I know Mike Rutherford had tweeted something about that, and I think the same thing. I think that it was a game that when you go into it, it's one of those things that when in an isolated situation, when I thought we were going to beat Kentucky, I thought, well, if we lose to Florida State, we're just here for the ride. We didn't even know if we'd make the ACC championship game in our first year. But I think that losing that game, then you start to look at, well, hey, we could possibly lose 3 in a row after you lose to Kentucky. And so there's more pressure to win that game. And the way we lost that game was, we basically lost to their defense and not their offense. They didn't have much offense at all outside of a few wildcat plays. So kind of frustrating, and we'll get into all that. Basketball, obviously, we went to Virginia Tech, played them close, but we lost. We lost the game, another road game, and we still have not won on the road or neutral court under Kenny Payne. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the transfer portal coming up. We've got at midnight, it opens. There's a lot of rumors out there. You try to separate the fact from the fiction, but you also know that everything can change on a moment's notice. So
there's no coincidences in recruiting.
Trent, good to have you in here. He's going to try to join us. He's at work, so he's going to try to pop in on the stream. So we'll see if we can get him in here. Jeff, good to see you in here, man. So I think we'll start with what happened most recently, which was the basketball game versus Virginia Tech. We went in there, we played them hard. My biggest takeaways, I am impressed with our offense, not our defense. I'm impressed with our offense. We actually had, I really liked what I saw on that side of the court today.
We actually ran plays.
We ran some good sets. Ran some good sets, had good motion, a lot of slip screens. Brandon Huntley Hatfield had a good game down low. And I was pretty impressed, compared to last year, standing around, just throwing up junk, which I do feel like that last possession where Tyler Johnson bricked that 3 was similar to what we saw all of last season. On his hip, I was frustrated. I was frustrated and lost to Kentucky Wesleyan because I felt like we didn't run anything. And then tonight, I see what our offense can do. But the problem is, and it's the same problem when you have coaching deficiencies, it's like you find new ways to lose. But one thing we've had a problem with, I won't even say this is a new way to lose, really, when I think about it, is our defense, especially our paint defense. It's just a big gaping hole in the middle of our defense down low. And it's just, I know how that pause. But I'm just saying, it's like they get down there and there's nobody down there to contest shots. Backdoor cuts are abundant. They get to the block and somebody slips underneath into the paint and then they throw it from the block and there's nobody there to clog the lane. And it's a continuous problem. We get scored on at will down there. Jeff, I do agree we could have used Dennis Evans today, but
I think they were too fast and what they did was they brought their big man, set a screen at the top of the key, and Dennis wouldn't have been in the lane anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, like Dennis has good things that he brings to the table on defense, especially with his length, but he is out of position a lot and he needs to gain a lot of strength. The strength part's not going to happen this year, so we have to live with that. But this has been a problem with or without Dennis Evans. It's been a problem all season. It was a problem last year. And I'd like to see a bit more emphasis on that side of the court. And I also, I do see the Twitter responses. I feel like there's a lot of people saying this is the team I expected to see. And kind of. I mean, they're better than they were last year, but that's such a low bar. And Virginia Tech, you have to know, like they came off of a 2-game losing streak. Now they got absolutely boat raced by Florida Atlantic, 34-point loss, and then they turn around and lost by 17 to, I believe it was Auburn.
And Auburn lost today to somebody to App State.
Yeah, so this is not. I get, like, when you look at it, you're like, okay, ACC road game, played them tough. All that's true. It is a little bit deceiving. I don't think that this Virginia Tech team is quite like some of those, like, Buzz Williams Virginia Tech teams, and even some of the most recent Virginia Tech teams we've seen. So, Wes, good to see you in here, man. Like I said, guys, we might have Trent join us here in a little bit. I don't know if Ty's technology, if he can get that fixed or not. So, Connor, what were your biggest takeaways from the basketball game?
I mean, the offense was fine. Like, they played well. That's fine. The defense was just the problem. The whole, like, I don't know what it is, but Virginia Tech's offense looked beautiful. I don't know if it was our defense or if they just run it really well, but the screen and then the roll back cuts, they were wide open the entire time. Like, like the entire game was basically either shoot a three that's wide open or hit your big man in the paint on a roll where he's wide open and he's just going to dunk it. Like, that was the whole game. If you didn't watch it, I just summed it up in about 45 seconds.
Yeah, and I will say it's a typical Louisville bad luck. We have a guy who – here's Ty. Let me get our banner switched up here, and we'll get Ty on here with us. But it's typical, every single time we play, it seems like somebody goes off that normally doesn't, and the player's name escapes my mind.
No idea. I have no clue any of their names today.
The kid I'm talking about was 0 of 11 from 3 all year. 11 threes, didn't hit a single one of them. 3 out of 3 tonight. So, that's our luck. That's how it goes sometimes. But again, you have too many lapses on that side of the court. And the problem is when they get paint penetration like they do, even if you close too late, they immediately know to kick it back out if they're well coached, and they kick it back out for those type of threes. And that's exactly what they did. It's like if we were late on the closeout under the paint, there were times where we didn't close out at all, and they just, got an easy layup, uncontested dunk. That happened a lot. But the other problem is we were late once we did close out. And so at that point, you're out of position. They throw it to the top of the key, bang, 3-pointer, money. So, Ty, welcome in, buddy. Got your headset working?
That was a struggle. I don't know what the hell happened.
It's a good thing we weren't trying to play Fortnite.
When we were playing Fortnite, it was working perfectly fine. I don't know what happened.
It didn't like the results of the sports weekend for us and didn't really want to come on here tonight, I guess.
my mic is just a microcosm of this weekend so far for Louisville sports. It's just been an all systems failure. So,
hey, the women won today.
Congrats to the women. Good job, Lady Cards. So, Ty, we were talking about the game, the basketball game. I think me and Connor's biggest take were, hey, offense had some nice sets. We actually ran a pretty efficient offense until that Tyler Johnson play at the end. That play. The funniest part about that play isn't even the shot and how bad it was. It was that for like the first 5 for the first 3 seconds of the play, he's just standing there at the top of the key with his hands on his hips, just standing there. And then all of a sudden, there he goes. And then he's
like, oh shit, I have the ball.
Oh crap, I got the ball. Yeah. So I don't know. That was our biggest takeaway, is that on offense overall, we looked really good, but on defense, it's the same problems we've had all year.
Yeah, defensively, it's been a struggle all year, and tonight it was really no better. I forget the kid's name. I think you were talking about, though, who hadn't hit a 3 pretty much all year, and today he couldn't miss.
And he splashed like 4 of them in our face today.
Yeah.
He hit 4? I knew he hit at least 3.
Unfortunately, that's just typical. That's just typical kind of whenever we're playing that, a kid just has one of those nights. I will say I was impressed with a few things. They did play better today. It still didn't obviously come out with a win, but the play was a little better. I was actually impressed with Brandon Huntley Hatfield. I thought he played a really good game. I thought he was strong. I forget the stats. I know I'm pretty sure he had a double-double.
I hope
when
so. It looked like he did.
When he caught the ball, he made decisive moves. He didn't just sit there and hold it and and then turn it over after trying to make a spin move in the paint. Like, it was decisive. He showed aggression. It's just unfortunately some of the same old stuff. It's disappointing to see that we played better and still lost. But coming out of that timeout, you call a timeout. Hopefully, you want to get a better look than what we got with that play that ended up in Tyler just throwing up a prayer. And sadly, we see that just too often. Something's got to change, and it's got to change quick, because the season's going to go by, and we're going to be sitting in the same spot we've been.
So MJ Collins had 20 points off the bench.
Is that who kept hitting the threes?
Yeah.
Okay.
And didn't they say he was like 0 of 11 for the entire year? I mean,
he was at least 3 of 3. He might have hit 4.
No, he was 3 of 3, 5 of 10 from the field for 20 points.
And like there's like spurts. There's spurts where they played solid defense, but then they just have lapses. And why is there so many lapses defensively at this point in year 2 of the Kenny Payne era? It just doesn't make any sense.
I think a big thing is a lack of communication, especially down low. Like, they don't communicate where people are supposed to go down there, and because of the lack of communication, you go ahead and say pause, but gaping holes in the paint. And it's just one of those things where it's just easy. If you're a good offense and a well-coached team who communicates, you probably already noticed that in the scouting report. And so you're going to take advantage of those situations. And it's up to you as a defense to communicate, and it's up to the staff. Like, if you're seeing that in practice, which obviously we're not in the practices, but if you see that in practice, you got to say, hey, you guys need to communicate better, because it's very clear people aren't communicating. Like, hey, your guy's running to the top of the key, he's about to set a pick, you need to drop, or you need to come up, you need to trap. Like, there's just none of that. Now, speaking of trapping, though, I do think at time, like, our pressure up front, especially with Tyler Johnson, I think that's actually really good. I mean, we're not going to sit here and say it's like Rick Pitino's full court press, but it's effective, and it does create some turnovers. It's the half court defense that's a major struggle right now. And I really think it's mostly down low. Like, Tyler Johnson is his defense does remind me a lot of when Preston Knowles was here. You cannot cross the ball in front of him. He will get it. Like, and I was thinking, man, if I'm Virginia Tech's coach, I am chewing those guards out, because they kept crossing the ball right in front of his face. And almost every time he either got a deflection or he got a steal. And I mean, he almost willed us to victory today. He had most of the runs we had were a direct result of Tyler Johnson on defense and then making a big play on offense, which we've seen that all year. He's incredible, really, especially for a kid like we've talked about before, who had no real time with the team because he was trying to get eligible. And then I know he spent some time with the team while he was waiting on the waiver to get approved. But really, all things considered, he didn't get the time he could have gotten. It would have probably made him even better. So you have to live with his mistakes, but it's kind of like the Russ Smith thing where it's like, damn it. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'll put up with it, because you're going to do 2 or 3 really good things and 1 really bad thing. And on this team especially, the 1 really bad thing, there's a lot of people that are doing bad things and they're not doing nearly as many good things. Brandon Huntley Hatfield, also, I want to make this point before I transition over. On the road, it seems like Brandon Huntley Hatfield is a different player. Like, when he was in New York, when he was, this game tonight, he played really well on offense. Let me clarify. On offense, he played very well. And my God, he looked like Steph Curry at the free throw line tonight. He's a 61% foul shooter, and he couldn't miss. He couldn't miss tonight. And I mean, when I say couldn't miss, he was just swishing them. It's like, but when he comes home, I don't know if the pressure just gets to him, but we'll play somebody like Bellarmine at home, whose tallest guy is 6'6" or 6'7", and he's completely silent and quiet and just fades. And so it's an odd thing, and it could just be a coincidence, but it seems like he plays better on the road against better teams, and I can't explain it.
So I'm looking at the box score right now. One, there's no reason that Brandon Huntley Hatfield is playing 38 minutes a game with the bigs that we have on the
Dennis
bench.
Evans.
Like
Dennis didn't play. That's probably why.
Yeah.
Well, Manny played. Manny only played 2 minutes.
Manny doesn't get any time. I
can't explain that either, because it's not that he's an offensive threat really, but he at times can provide a rebounding spark.
I mean, you just need him for rebounding and effort and to spell, Huntley Hatfield, because especially if Dennis is not out there, and I see Trent making a comment saying he'd been hyping up BHH. I want to relax for a second, because while he was better today, and I was impressed with how he played offensively, and when I say this, not every point is attributed to him, but Kidd for Virginia Tech had 19. So as well as BHH played, he also gave up more than he gave us. So and that wasn't all on him. There's rotation problems, but
Well, so also there's no reason outside of Tyler Johnson that we're only getting 12 minutes from guys off the bench. Like Curtis Williams played 6, Caleb played 4, and Caleb had 4 fouls in 4 minutes.
That's the thing. Caleb Glenn, I mean, he's got all the potential to be a really good player. He brings a skill set I really like, especially how strong and powerful he can be. But my goodness, he's a football player out there on defense, and that's not what you need to be. Like, he's a guy, like, I remember when Joshua Tinge played like 20-something years ago, and he was a football player. He played basketball under Rick Pitino, and they just put him in there, and he just get like 5 fouls within like a few minutes. He was literally a football player playing basketball. And that's what Caleb Glenn looks like right now. Like, you got to calm it down a little bit. You got to stay in the game for us and don't rack up a bunch of fouls. And he makes some really bad fouls. But to get back to Huntley Hatfield, I can't explain why at home he just disappears against lesser competition. Then he'll go on the road and play better competition, better big men, and at least on offense, I mean, he plays incredible. But it is good to see it, because before the season started, I said the X factor for us winning more games is Brandon Huntley Hatfield taking a big step, because Dennis Evans isn't quite ready for big minutes yet, even when he is healthy. Manny can give us a few minutes here and there to get some rebounds and scrap, but he's not a guy you can rely on to be a offensive threat. So it comes down to him. It comes down to Brandon Huntley Hatfield. So it's good to see him have these games. Just needs to be more consistent, especially on our home court.
I will say, and Connor, you were kind of talking about the rotations and off the bench. I'm not necessarily mad at it. Like, I know when you're looking at the box score, it looks pretty crazy to see, Huntley Hatfield 38 minutes, James 33, Sky 37, Trey 34, but
they seem to handle it well.
I thought that was really our only chance of winning the game, is if those guys played. Like, I'll be honest with you guys, I'm really tired of seeing the Danilo Jovanovic experiment already.
You don't like D'Lo?
D'Lo, he seems like a good kid, but so far I've seen absolutely nothing that would suggest he's going to be a contributor this year. And you can debate on going forward in the future, but I don't think he's a guy that could play this year. I'm not seeing it. So I'm glad that he's not getting minutes and it's instead going to some other guys. I would like to see Curtis Williams play a little more, just because I do think he's one of the few on the team that can stretch the floor with his shooting ability. And I think that would help offensively, get more spacing, but I'm not terribly mad at the rotations and the lineups. Just defensively tonight was just horrible. It needs to get better.
Russ Clark says the whole team plays with better cohesion. I do agree with that. Last year was a jumbled mess. Offense, they do at least. Defense still lack a lot of communication on that end. First game, starting lineup played well together. They did start pretty strong. Trent says he's not the 5-star we want him to be, but he's showing flashes at least. probably referring to Brandon Huntley Hatfield.
I could agree there. He's showing flashes.
Yeah, Curtis Williams needs Mike James minutes at this point. Tron says that. Welcome in, Tron.
I think we need to play I was going to say Skylar because one of the commentators said that one game. We need to play Sky and Tyler together a lot more.
Oh, I agree for sure. Those two together they're dynamic.
Now, here's the problem, and it's a problem that, we got a lot of heat on this pod for.
Then you don't have a guard to come off the bench.
We don't have enough guards, enough natural guards, and that's why you needed at least one more, preferably two more natural guard reserves, because then you could play Sky Clark and Tyler Johnson more together. The problem is when you only have two, legit guards that are actual real guards, which we have those in Sky and Tyler. The problem is if one of them gets in foul trouble, then you have one guard again. And so what they try to do is they try to stagger some of their minutes so that you don't have them both out there together and have to sit them both to rest at the same time. Or like I said, if one gets in foul trouble, they're going to go out of the game. So you don't want them both getting huge chunk minutes at the same time. That's a problem. And it's not going to go away because we don't have those reserve guards that can just come in and plug and play for 15-minute spells, 10-minute spells maybe. Otherwise, yeah. And at the end of the day, you probably are going to have to gamble and put them out there more together and just hope it works. That's all you got. That's the problem.
And Jeff, I see your point. You say paint defense was bad, 3-point defense was good.
That's fine.
I was going to say, in my opinion, this is just my opinion. I don't think the 3-point defense was good either. I know how the box score makes it look great because Virginia Tech was 5 of 20 from 3.
They were wide open.
They were wide open. Virginia Tech missed a lot of wide open threes. Padula is one of their better shooters. He was 0 of 3.
Is that number 3?
Yeah, he was number 3.
Two of them were wide open.
Oh, 2 of them, there was no one within the same state. And he just bricked them. Couture is another one that's a good 3-point shooter. He's 1 of 3. Tyler Nickel, who's a transfer from North Carolina, I believe, he was 1 of 6. That brother was just shooting and missing all night long. B ran 0 of 4. It was Collins who hit some. Now, I will say Collins, there was 1 3 that Collins shot that was just crazy, and it was well defended. It really was.
Splashed in his mouth.
He splashed it. So ridiculous. You can't really there's no complaining about that. That was well defended. But I feel like overall, the 3-point defense was not good either. Virginia Tech just didn't score.
And Jeff, I alluded to it earlier. I don't know if you were on here, but I think the problem with our defense, the paint defense, it leads to threes because when our guys collapse in the paint late, a well-coached team like Virginia Tech's well-coached to, react to that part, at least as far as passing the ball. They know exactly where the guy's coming from to help whenever they're coming late to the paint. And so they pass it right to that guy wide open behind the 3-point line. So that's why sometimes when you contest late in the paint, you may force them not to shoot the shot in the paint, but you're still out of position, which leads to, poor spacing, wide open threes. I'm going to go ahead and bring Trent on, though. He's with us.
Lord.
Never mind. He got nervous. He went on. No, he's probably got a connection issue. He's also technically at work. So maybe
in a factory.
I was about to pull him on and he jumped off. So he'll be back. So we'll bring him back on whenever he comes back.
And then when they drove the lane, we collapsed in, which is great, but they hit the backdoor swing pass the entire game, and those threes were wide open. Those are the defense that they just bricked. Continue. Those were the ones that they just bricked. They were wide open.
The defense as a whole is broken, and I don't quite understand it because they have the athletes to run a good man-to-man defense. There's length, there's size. They just can't defend. This team cannot defend.
Keith, you make Mike James got lazy on a 50-50 ball and should have had that ball in that possession, and it would have put him on the bench for that last play ever. And that's the thing too. While we are showing better effort, we still have these moments like what you're describing, and then like I said earlier, like the last play coming out of that timeout, Tyler Johnson, as hard as he plays, he just had I don't know if it's because he's a freshman, he had a mental lapse or what. But like I'm looking at him and he's just standing there for the first like 3 seconds with his hands on his hips and the play's happening.
Can I tell you what I think that is?
Then he just gets it. And maybe it wasn't planned. And I'll let you tell me, Ty. Maybe the plan wasn't for him to get the ball, and all of a sudden,
That's what I think it is.
But the problem is, you still got to like draw your defender away, and you still got to like run around and do something. You can't just like take yourself out of the play. And then of course, there's always a chance. There's always a chance you are going to get the ball, and that's exactly what happened. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh crap, I have the ball. I got to do something. Throws up a brick.
Yeah, and there's like 2 seconds on the shot clock. You were at least in a good
position to catch the ball, and you were like engaged. But yeah, it just looked to me like, hey, I'm just going to stand off on the side. And I don't know, and that could be the way he was coached to do it. I don't know. I would hope not. But either way, you can't have one of your star guard, I would argue, arguably the best player on our team on the last play, just standing there with his hands on his hips while the play is happening. Like, you can't do that. But that being said, I'm gonna bring Trent on. Oh, Trent, welcome, buddy. How you doing?
Living the dream.
How's the third shift, buddy?
It is what it is. It's not that bad, really. I didn't get to see much of the game today because of it, but it doesn't seem like I missed much.
He didn't play defense. You didn't miss much.
We didn't really play defense. Played pretty well on offense, all things considered. But again, a loss. And I think the big thing is that I think when the season concludes, I think we're going to see Virginia Tech's probably not what we've seen them be in the past, which Virginia Tech in recent years has been like probably a top 20 to 30 team. And so I think that can be a little bit deceiving. My guess is they are going to be a bubble team at best. And they probably an NIT team if I had to guess today. Now, they can improve, but they look to me like an NIT team.
I think us and Virginia Tech are going to be very close on the ACC standings when this season's over.
Yeah,
probably in the teens.
And how about Josh Pastner? Now, I understand why he doesn't have a coaching job. With 22 seconds left, down 6 points, Virginia Tech gets the ball, and he says, I don't really think they need a 3 here. They can go down there and shoot a 2. That's a former head coach. I'm like, what in the world? With 22 seconds left, in what world would you not need a 3-pointer if you're down 6 points? Like,
do you want to hear a fun fact? Our last road win happens to be against Josh Pastner.
I already knew that.
Well, there's the reason why Josh Pastner is a former basketball coach. Let's hope there's a reason he's a former announcer because that was painful. That was painful.
Oh. All right, let me get my banners right. He jumped off, didn't give us any warning. That's what happens when you're at work. That being said, guys, basketball is what it is right now. The direction of it, nobody knows. I know we did get past Bellarmine. I think that was like a red flag game. You lose that game, I think there's a lot of – we talked about it. I think the discussion really ramps up. But I don't know where it stands after a close loss on the road to Virginia Tech. So, for now, we are 4-4, 0-1 in conference play. Still have not won that road game under a new coaching staff. And we'll just keep plugging along. I do want to transition into football. Obviously, that was the bigger topic of conversation this weekend. So,
who cares?
last night, me and Connor touched on it at the very beginning. But last night, if you would have told us before the season you're going to finish 10-3, ACC championship game, you say that's incredible. And it was. It absolutely was. Jeff Brom's first year, this team deserves all the credit in the world for getting to that game, for gutting out some wins that they could have easily lost, for beating Notre Dame the way we did, for going to Miami and winning that game. And so I'm not super frustrated, but I can definitely see where after the game, all of us, in the Discord, I saw it on Twitter, we were pretty frustrated right after that game because it does feel like we lost to a team that just did not play offense. It feels like we they had a few wildcat plays that got us, but for the most part, we lost the team because we couldn't generate any offense. And I want to say that, the offensive line, they got steamrolled all night. So we can't just throw it all on Jack Plummer. And he did not play well. He didn't. He's getting absolutely crucified on social media, though. I think some of it's a little bit over the top, and I hate that. unfortunately, it comes with the territory of being the quarterback, and you got to take that as it comes. But it's unfortunate if people are going in his inboxes, like I've heard, DMing them. That stuff should never happen. That being
if you're doing that, stop. Just stop.
Yeah,
That's loser mentality. Just stop.
That's not cool, man. Everybody, I mean, you're gonna have bad games. He is trying his hardest. It didn't work out the way we wanted. That being said, it is kind of frustrating to know that a third string true freshman quarterback in an ACC championship game who didn't do very much at all was able to do just enough.
He didn't do anything though. We got beat by Telephilly.
By the by the Wildcat, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much one big play, really.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And offensive line, I mean, this obviously was a struggle for them. It lets you know kind of where they stand as far as, okay, they could be a top 25 offensive line, but are they a top 10 offensive line? And unfortunately, I think we got our answer last night. But it is hard not to look at Jack Plummer and see just some of the throws that were just there for the taking that he just flat out missed. I mean, the ones that come to my mind, I'll pass it off. He had a play where he put the ball behind his back. I mean, we've seen the Jeff Braun play before. He got that from Bobby Petrino, by the way, when Stefan LaFours was here. That's where he got that play. And it worked to perfection back then. Well, Jack does everything right, except he probably holds it behind his back a second too long and then allows the defender to get a better position. But all you have to do is loft that thing over his head because he's so wide open. And you just –
that was the one that lifts him, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. And then
he had 15, 20 yards ahead of him. Nobody near him.
Nobody near him. And I mean, even if he slips and falls, he's going to get the first down. He just lofted it, man. Kind of like he did to Sylvester in the Miami game. Throw that kind of pass there, but he throws a bullet instead right into the defender. And, yeah, he made a good play. I mean, it's not like he didn't jump up and bat it down, but all he had to do was loft it. Another play, he actually escaped pressure and had a guy, and I can't remember if it was
Garindo. Garindo was wide open on one
play. It was Garindo. You're right. Wide open, throws it to the wrong guy. And of course the interception was just awful. It was an awful, awful throw. And
we scored the play before that, but that, whatever.
That's an interesting play. I'm not so sure, man.
Thanks, ACC. We appreciate it, man.
That reminded me of the one at NC State that they ended up giving us.
Yeah,
ACC next time, just use lube before you decide to fuck us that hard.
I think the problem with that play is that it wasn't reviewed more than like the one time in the booth where they review right before the play. They should have stopped the play on the field. I'm not so sure we're going to get that overturned because they ruled it incomplete on the field. I'm just not so sure they would have. I'd like to see the rule when you hit the ground, how long must you possess the football?
In college, as soon as you hit the ground with the ball in the end zone, it's a touchdown.
But what if you hit the ground and the ball just immediately pops out? Like I would never seen that ruled incomplete. I don't know. That's a weird play to me, but my bigger problem is it wasn't even reviewed.
That's my thing. Like, you can get into the rules all day, but it wasn't even reviewed. Like, how do you not even take a look at that just in the slightest? Are you telling me those refs just saw that he didn't get – like, that's the thing. It wasn't even reviewed, and then it wasn't much longer after that they reviewed a different play.
It was
the Florida State running back.
It was completely irrelevant, too. It was like a difference between 1 yard.
I'm like, hey, thanks for reviewing that one, but you couldn't review a potential touchdown just a few minutes prior.
And that's what Coach Braun was like ripping them about. And I know, I can't read libs, but he was ripping them. And I guarantee you he was saying, you're really going to review this right here, this irrelevant play. But down there for a touchdown. And the thing is, the argument is, well, they reviewed it quickly and it was so obvious. I don't think it was that obvious. I think you need to stop the play. It's a touchdown in the ACC championship game. And you got to review that. So
we all know why they didn't. We all know why.
Well, and I'm going to get into the ACC, Florida State and all that in a little bit too.
Well, we're going to spend some time on that because I have plenty of things that I want.
So I want to stick to the game right now. So another thing I noticed that really frustrated me. This is the ACC championship game. And Jawar Jordan, man, you are a great player and ambassador to university, but twice you did not, do what you needed to do to get a first down or at least try, man.
No fight.
You can't pull the James Quick against Clemson. You can't run out of bounds before the sticks to avoid contact. Like, this is not Murray State in game 1 or 2. This is for the whole daggone thing. And we ended up getting a field goal out of that. And I think we had a very good chance to get a touchdown on that drive. They couldn't stop us. That play literally is what did it. Like, it literally stopped us from being able to, it stopped our momentum. So it was very frustrating to even have to deal with that. To even have to be in that situation to begin with. Like, why in the world are you running out of bounds right there? That was my most frustrating play of the.
One of them was the third down, wasn't it?
It was second down, and we went to third down and didn't get it on third down.
We didn't get it, and it's like, we got 3rd and 2. They stopped us, but I really think all you do is you just run ahead, and at the worst case scenario is, it's 4th and inches. Worst case scenario, but I think he gets the first down.
All right.
Trent, while we have you, go ahead and give your takes, and then I'll go in after.
One thing I wanted to say earlier, when we were talking about him, is with Nate Kariski. I will say, everyone's talking that we do need a tight end because the tight end room's pretty barren, but I think he can be the guy. He showed his 4th down catch at Miami. That play, we're making a play on the ball. He's good blocking out of the backfield. He chips pretty good. I think, and Kariski had a Purdue offer out of high school. And I know I mentioned that this summer when we were kind of going through the rosters and stuff. Just small on him. I think he could be the future at tight end. I do like the way he plays. Overall in the game, it's kind of weird the whole season. It feels like we overachieved and underachieved at the same time.
Yes, that's a good way to describe it.
We all would have been not happy, but we all would have been okay, year 1, 7-5. With this schedule, I think we all kind of thought 8 wins was where we should have been, looking at the schedule coming in. And it sucks knowing that we really could have went undefeated this year. Never should have lost to Pitt. When you fumble twice and have an interception and you give up a special teams touchdown, whether it was fraudulent or not, you're going to lose 75% of the time, no matter who you're playing. Shouldn't have lost to Kentucky. We really could have went 12-0 in the regular season, and then after that, it's just gravy.
Now, devil's advocate to that.
Yeah.
Devil's
not playing
to that is IU, for example, at the goal line, and then
Georgia Tech. We barely beat Georgia Tech. We had to come back. Virginia. We were down 14, 18 in that game.
Yeah, and Virginia.
Yeah. But it sucks. The game last night too was there for the taking. There was the I can't remember who it was. The Jack Plummer pass that it was right on the money off the fingertips that was dropped.
Callaway.
That one sucked. And then obviously Chris Pell had a wide open touchdown, and if he had just a little bit more arm, that would have been an easy touchdown. He had separation both times. I think he had separation against Cypress, who was 2nd team All ACC and a 5-star transfer, a really good corner. So it sucks that the plays were there. And also the defense played pretty lights out, whether or not that was because of, having a bad quarterback. Either way, you got to play who's there. Really, if you take out that long run with the top of Feely, you never know what could have happened. But I'm not as upset as I feel like I could have been given all the things that we had this year, as good as we have been. But it does blow. It really sucks. And again, not getting to play in a New Year's Six Bowl, it's also like a devil's advocate because, you want to play in a New Year's Six Bowl. That's what you're going for. It's playoff or New Year's Six. That's the big, eye-catching thing. But at least now we can play in a bowl game that I think we have a very good chance to win. USC's defense is Swiss cheese. No shot he plays. They could have other holdouts too. They already got players in the transfer portal.
Running back already dropped out too.
Yep. So it sucks. Nobody's gonna look back in 10 years and be like, remember the what bowl is it? I don't even know what bowl it is.
Holiday Bowl.
Yeah, the DirecTV Bowl, baby. But still, it'd be nice to at least go out on a win. You don't want to be like 2016 if we didn't win. At least Lamar won the Heisman that year, but going out on 3 losses sucked.
The irony of it being
exactly
the
what
DirecTV
this year
Holiday
reminds
Bowl.
me of. It's exactly the same year. It's like,
I'm kind of an asshole because I remember when we went and we hit 9-1, I hopped in here and was like, "Hey, last time we did this, we lost 3 in a row." So it's probably my fault that we had the bad end.
Trent, it's your fault, man. That's why Jawar didn't run for the first down.
But yeah, I got people waiting on me, so I got.
You're good, man. Thanks for joining us.
Good hopping in here.
Thanks for joining, brother.
Appreciate it.
See ya. Let me get this fixed. Y'all can go ahead and continue.
So I agree with a lot of things Trent said. Last night was so frustrating. It was frustrating to watch. I'm glad, Kyle, that you mentioned that the offensive line, you can't put all of this on Jack, because I've seen a ton of hate being put on Jack. And, I get it. He's the quarterback. He did not play well. I'm not going to try to excuse it. He didn't.
His receivers didn't play well either.
He also wasn't really given much of a chance to play well, because the offensive line played probably the worst they had all year long.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a collective. The tackles just getting beat. Willie Tyler, I know he was late in the game and the game was over at that point, but Willie Tyler just got absolutely abused to a sack of Plummer. The defensive end sacked Tyler and Jack in the exact same play. It was
we
that
talked
bad.
about it today, didn't we? Like Florida State has 5 guys on that D line that are going to go play on Sunday.
Oh, Verse is definitely going to be. He's going to be dominant in the league.
And Verse is getting drafted in the first round. Like, that's not even a question.
He's going top 5. He's the best D end in the country.
I don't know about top 5. I said top 12.
He's mocked, I think, top 5. But
shit,
yeah,
like he is good. And
Our Heels for Life. Thanks for joining, man.
And
we both kind of had underachieving seasons at the end, at least.
And I don't like. I know some people don't know where the hell Jared Verse came from, but how the hell did he end up at Albany?
I don't know. That's a failure in scouting.
Macro, I keep seeing you talk about the running at will. I normally agree with that. Like
we couldn't run. We couldn't do anything last night.
The pick game, for example, absolutely egregious that we passed it 52 times in a monsoon when we were running fine with Maurice Turner. But this game, I just don't think there was much there. I do think the opening drive where, we did some misdirection, some option stuff, I think that helped open up the run some. But the problem is you can't rely on Jack Plummer doing that all game. Like, it's a thing that'll work maybe a couple of times. And at the end of the day, they just really stacked the box. Our offensive line got destroyed all night.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's the problem. So the problem is, you want to talk about not running. Well,
there's nowhere to run.
That way through, there was nowhere to run. And if I have a problem with, okay, so let's just talk about blame here, because everyone wants to talk about blame, and I know people want to blame Jack, and he deserves plenty of the blame. But the offensive line was terrible. They were getting pushed back at the point of attack all night long, and that's from the exterior guys, the tackles, to the interior. Brian Hudson, a friend of the show, we all love him, and I can't be more proud of Brian and his career and how he's played, and he's a great player. But he had one of his worst games last night, and I think Brian would tell you that it was not good. And that's from that. I'm not trying to hate on the kid, because he's been awesome, but as a collective whole, the offensive line played horrible. So then you add in that Jack had to do more because we couldn't run the ball. The only success we really had running was towards the perimeter. And if I would blame anything on Jeff and the play calling, is that he didn't try enough outside runs. When he tried the inside runs, I think it was a 2nd and goal. One of our 2nd and goals, we ran it right up the middle with Jawar. I'm like, dude, Jeff, that's not going to work, man. It hasn't worked all night.
Well,
that very first run we did, like literally Jack handed the first run of the game. Jack, I thought right then, I was like, we're going to lose by like 85 points. Of course, I knew they wouldn't score very much, but it was just my first thought.
I mean, Florida State's defensive line is that legit, man.
Like, it was like, legit. But, he didn't get the ball hardly. He barely got the ball, and boom. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is going to be rough. And it was rough all night.
If Verse goes to the Jets D line is going to be disgusting.
Now, it's already disgusting, but yeah.
While we're talking about Florida State, and I want to transition into this, I feel bad for Florida State fans, Florida State players, Florida State coaches, because, I mean, they did everything they had to do to get in the college football playoff. That being said, I do not feel bad for the ACC at all. And I'm getting a lot. I've gotten a few I've gotten a couple back and forths with a couple of people on Twitter about defending the ACC and saying it's not fair. Look, here's my thoughts on the ACC. I know Ty's going to back me up here. Screw them. They don't care about us, man. Like that game last night, we didn't do enough to win the game. I'm not going to say officiating lost us a game. What I will say is officiating was so one-sided to try to get them into the college football playoff. They didn't even try to hide it. It was so bad. It was horrible. They held pass interference all night. I can count 3 or 4 plays where it was obvious, but they had no problem calling it on us. They held a ton on, of course, Ashton Gelati. If there was an award for most times being held without it being called in one season, he'd have the all-time record, but this game was just another one. I mean, we had a fumble, a strip sack fumble, where, I mean, if he wasn't held, he gets that. Instead, a half second later, the arm's going forward, he gets them. And it's because that half second that he lost was because he was being held. It was very obvious, but they had no problem calling that on us. And so, like, here's my point.
And it's 2 games in a row.
Here's my point. Look, it's simp behavior to love somebody that doesn't love and respect you. Like, you can love them like unconditionally, like, you know, a child or something, or, you know, a family member, but you still don't let them walk all over you. This is conference affiliation, man. It's not even that deep. Like, don't screw the ACC. They don't care about us. They do not care about us. They've never respected us. Why in the world would you come groveling? Oh, the ACC is not going to be representing the champion. Screw that, man. They don't care about us. And the conference is dying anyway. And I know people think grant of rights. Let me tell you something. You don't live in a house for 5 or 7 years or whatever it is with somebody you're going to court to get a divorce with. It doesn't work. Like, you don't just raise a family together in the same house when the divorce papers have been filed and you're separated. Like, it's not going to work. That's all these teams in the ACC right now. I don't know when it'll happen, but if you're telling me right now that all of these teams, as dysfunctional as they are all of a sudden going to come together and sing Kumbaya for years, it's not going to happen. So here's my thought. We've been treated like the redheaded stepchild. They really haven't wanted much to do with us. It's very clear. I don't say that in a victim mentality type of way. I do understand there's people that go through life thinking the world's against them and they make excuses all the time. I'm not doing that. There's literally so much evidence that this conference does not value us as members, especially when it comes to officiating. And, you know, screw them. Like, I feel bad for Florida State and their players and their coaches and all that, but I do not feel bad for this conference. The only thing I feel kind of bad about is we're not going to get the extra money that comes with Florida State making a college football playoff. Other than that, screw them.
I don't care. I'll be honest. Like, I agree. I feel bad for Florida State players. I feel bad for the coaches, and I feel bad for the fans.
No, I don't feel bad for the fans.
Well, I have some, you know, friends, and I know some, you know, acquaintances that are Florida State fans, so I get it. But I don't feel bad at all for the ACC. Last night they made that very, very apparent and early on that they were going to do everything they could in their power to make sure that Florida State was going to win that game. That was one of the most rigged officiating games I've ever seen. We've talked about the touchdown or not touchdown. They didn't even review it. The fact that you don't even take a look at a potential touchdown tells me everything that I needed to know. That told me everything I needed to know. And I think it took a lot of people by surprise who were watching, like casual fans who don't watch ACC games or don't watch Louisville, you know, don't watch
the Texas
Louisville.
fans that were watching the game last night.
All the Texas fans that are watching. I saw so many tweets on Twitter like, how are you not reviewing that? And it's true. Like, that's a potential touchdown in a game where a touchdown meant a lot.
Because ain't nobody scoring.
Because nobody's scoring, and they didn't even attempt to take a look at it. Just left it as is. And we could talk about the holdings and all that good stuff. I think Trent mentioned Cypress earlier. That dude held every receiver he could all night long.
Well,
I don't know. Go ahead.
Like the ones on our offensive line, when there's a hold, 99% of the time you show the replay of the hold.
They called the one on Hudson, right? And they didn't show a review.
Yeah.
No replay, no review. We're not going to look at it. You all are good. And it was on a big play, right?
And the second one that they called on him, they showed, and everybody's like, "Where's the hold?" Like his hands are right here in his chest, and he just throws his arm up to try to get a hold, and he gets it.
Well, the one that they didn't even show a replay, I'm pretty sure that was a huge gain too, if I'm not mistaken.
It was like 15, 20 yards.
It was painfully obvious that the ACC did everything they could last night to make sure Florida State won that game. And, unfortunately, we didn't do anything ourselves to help ourselves with that case. We just kept shooting ourselves in the foot with how we played. But even if we had played well, I'm not sure it would have mattered because I think they just would have kept going. So I don't feel bad at all for the ACC. Screw you, ACC, and I'm happy this happened, actually.
One of the things that blows my mind. One of the things that blows my mind is that I saw a lot of the people on Twitter complaining about the one-sided officiating last night. And some of them, and including media members, which I'm not calling any of them out. I know we've all got takes. And there's things I say, people probably are like, what the hell, man? Like, no. Well, one of my what the hell man knows for them are the ones that turned around today after complaining about one-sided officiating. And they're going to bat for the ACC today. Like, you literally slept on it and then woke up today and just decided like all of that was in the past. Like, we're just I don't understand. That's like, you can't have both of those things going. Those are contradicting things to feel like you're being slighted in favor of a team. And then all of a sudden the next day we're supposed to be upset that team got screwed. No, like I'm upset for them as a team. I'm not upset for this conference. Screw this conference. And I mean, I'm on record saying that.
And this leads to my second point. So with the ACC not being involved in the college football playoff, I think we all, at least we think this. Florida State is probably going to do everything they possibly can, and they have been making a lot. There have been a lot of smoke and a lot of talk all summer long about what they were going to do to get out of the grant of rights. I can promise you that they are going to do everything they possibly can in their power to leave the ACC now. And I tell you right now, I think tomorrow will be interesting because I'm telling you, it's coming.
I guess it seems kind of silly now because like if they would make the playoffs, if this same exact scenario happened next year, they'd be in. So it's kind of.
But Josh Hurd needs to be hand in hand with Florida State and anybody else who wants to go ahead and try their best to dissolve this conference because I hate this shithole conference that is the ACC.
That's why we run a pod, because whether people agree or disagree, we're not afraid to say exactly how we feel. So
you agree or not, this conference sucks ass, and I want out of it. So there you have it.
Send us to the Big 12. Let us play Cincy. Let us play West Virginia again.
Oh, I would love the Big 12. That would just be amazing.
I mean, Cincy and West Virginia are established old rivalries. I'd love to have them again, although I'll never go back to Morgantown again. But that aside, it would be interesting. So speaking of games, though, and matchups, I didn't want to talk.
Can we, before we go any further, Z Paulson, I want to bring this comment up. Are you talking about?
Huh? What?
Are you saying move on from Braum?
We went 10-3, bro. What?
No, that's got to be a troll comment. I'm not gonna feed that. Nope. I'm not doing it tonight. I don't have that energy.
Which Braum are we moving on from, buddy? I just want to know.
So let's just transition.
Okay, we can move on now.
So the Holiday Bowl, we found out that's what bowl we're going to be in, December 27th, and we're going to play USC. Obviously, some people are like, oh, well, we should have been in the Orange Bowl, and we got ourselves screwed out of that. Or, the College Football Playoff Committee screwed us out of it by screwing FSU. I, for one, and it's not that I want to shy away from competition, I also don't like games where I feel like there's nothing to gain. And so I feel like by playing Georgia or Alabama or Ohio State, We play enough name schools now in the ACC. We get teams like Florida State, like Clemson, like Notre Dame. We play big games. Like playing Georgia after what we just experienced against Florida State, I would argue Georgia probably has an even better defense, and they certainly have a better offense, whether guys sit out or not. No, good Lord. Like, there's just nothing to gain from that to me by losing 3 in a row and getting absolutely steamrolled in that game. And when I look at the Holiday Bowl, we're going to California. Now, why is that interesting besides the fact that we play a storied program? Well, I'm very curious to see if Pierce Clarkson gets any action. And I mean, there's going to be people that put pressure on that social media wise. I trust Coach Braum to play whoever he decides is the best quarterback to play. But I will admit personally, I would be a little disappointed if he doesn't get some clock unless he doesn't want the clock. Like, I don't know, maybe he's like, hey, it's my redshirt season. Don't want to risk an injury. Don't want to, come in the last game of the year, not much to be gained. Fine. If that's how he feels, that's how he feels. But I would like to see him play and get some experience because we'll get into transfer portal recruiting, but I'm not so sure we're not going to need him next year big time. And if that's the case, I'd love to see him be in front of the crowd in California. His family, I believe where he's from, I believe St. John Bosco, like that whole area. I believe it's like 2 hours away from San Diego, if that. So it's not far. It'd be nice. It'd give the California guys something to look forward to. And I would love to see some of those guys get action, some of the ones that are from that. Obviously, like Aaron Williams coming off of an injury, hasn't played all year, probably might not get in there. I don't know if he's even healthy enough. Jaleel McClain, I don't know if he would get any action either. It'd be nice just to get him a little bit of time, though, since you're not going to burn their red shirt because they haven't played 4 games.
And it wouldn't matter because they changed the postseason rule so you can play 1 game in the postseason. So
there you go. So there you go. That's why we have Connor on here. He knows all the ins and outs of that kind of stuff. That being said, it would be great to see Pierce Clarkson play, in his home state, just even for a couple series. So that's where I'm at with it.
I mean, playing USC is great. That's fine. Whatever. Like, their defense is trash. Like, the stark differences between the defense we played last night and the defense we're going to play on December 27th or whatever the hell day we're playing are like 2 different universes. If we don't have like 450 yards total, like, there's a problem. And their offense is going to be depleted because Caleb's not going to play. I'm sure they have a few receivers that aren't going to play. Their running back's already out. Like he pieced out today on Instagram. So, like, will it be a quote unquote big win? Sure. But when you look at it on paper, it'll be a big win. But knowing who's not going to play, I mean, it takes off a little bit of the, the bright, shiny lights on it.
It'll be interesting to see what USC does with their quarterback situation because obviously Caleb, none of us expect him to play. Will they play? I think it's Malachi Nelson, the 5-star quarterback that they got last year.
Pierce versus Malachi.
That would be pretty intriguing. I wonder if they played in high school.
They played in the state championship against each other, I think.
Oh, okay. I don't think
that's the kind of stuff. It'd be really cool to see that,
I don't think this is just me. I think at this point it's pretty obvious that Jeff is going to stick with Jack, and I don't see that changing in the bowl game, regardless of. It's going to be his last game, his last college game. So I don't think that's going to change. I do think you could possibly see some packages for guys like Pierce. Maybe someone like Brady Allen gets elevated up to maybe.
We're definitely getting the Evan Conley package. Definitely.
Probably you will definitely see a Conley package. It's going to be his last game. And then and you talk about the portal opening up, and we're probably gonna have a few defections, and I'm sure USC will as well. So it'll be interesting to watch. I will say the fact that it's USC being a brand name is pretty cool. The Holiday Bowl, obviously, it's not the Orange Bowl, but the Holiday Bowl is one of the cooler, more premier bowl games, one of the more notable ones. And it's in a nice location. I know I've seen a lot of people. This is another thing that just kind of irks me about some of the fans that are on Twitter. I'm seeing a lot of people complaining to Josh Hurd about being in the Holiday Bowl.
It's
Brother,
too far away. It's too far
first
away.
off,
Like,
he doesn't
he
get to make the choice. Like, he can go to bat for us for all the bowls he wants, but it's not like he says, "Oh yes, we will take the Holiday Bowl." That's not how that works,
I just wonder
guys.
how Josh Hurd feels when, like, my guess is he probably doesn't even look at his mentions because
Probably not.
it's probably gotten so ridiculous. But if he does, I can only imagine some of the things he's like experienced with fans and just
I don't want to
completely,
say
like,
it. Like, I don't want to say it on the pod because it's really offensive to Jack Plummer, but it was pretty funny.
I
Like,
know
there was a quote tweet on.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
oh, so you're talking about a random tweet from a fan. I thought you were talking about Josh Hurd. I was like,
But it was a quote tweet on Josh's tweet about flying Spirit to LA and driving to San Diego.
Okay, well, that being said, like, it's just some of the people that say stuff, they just don't even know like, they don't have a clue how
guys,
it works.
it's not Josh isn't the one that Josh can only go to bat for us and kind of talk to the partners and everything, but he doesn't get to make the choice. Like,
Well,
that's
the
not
rule
how
literally
it works.
is that the Orange Bowl takes the top ACC team if they don't make the playoffs. Florida State didn't make the playoffs. There's
And
absolutely nothing to
unfortunately, they didn't.
discuss. And good luck telling the Orange Bowl in Florida, hey, why don't you not take the number 5 team? Why don't you take the team that just lost to them and has lost 2 in a row? Like,
Well, the only
Hey,
argument I could see would be the Pop-Tart Bowl, which I believe is in Orlando.
Yeah,
right?
that's the old Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yeah,
Whatever.
so that would be the only argument, but it's in San Diego, guys. It's like the nicest city in California. It's like super nice. It's going to be great weather.
It's
If you can
75
make it
degrees
out
year
there,
round.
go.
Like,
I know travel and expenses and it's tough, holiday season, the money, I get it, but if you can do it, go out there. It's going to be a nice trip.
yeah. So
You're going to love it.
I'll sum it up by saying, like, I want to elaborate that I do not think Pierce Clarkson starts this game and plays the whole game. I'm hoping he's in there for a couple series. I think you need to transition, get him some playing time. And I think it'd be great in front of some of his home crowd there in his home state. I think it would be awesome. But again, I'm not the coach. I trust what Jeff Brom decides to do. I know Jack Plummer's going to start as long as he wants to, as long as he doesn't decide to sit out, which I don't think he will. I get that. I just would like to see him for a couple of series. But speaking of Pierce, and one of the reasons I do want to see him get some playing time is because, I mean, we know Jack Plummer is leaving, and people have mixed reactions on if that's a good thing or not. I'm sure that's fine. That being said, the transfer portal opens at midnight, and it is very crucial. I think after what we saw last night, we saw just how, last night taught us a lot because, yeah, we lost the UK, but that's a game we should have and could have easily won, and we didn't. We blew it. The FSU game, though, is a bit different. The FSU game for me was a barometer test. How close are we to competing with those top 10 teams and top 5 teams in particular in Florida State's case? And we're just not quite there yet because, again, we lost by 10, you can say, but we did that with a quarterback that did nothing. I mean, if Jordan Travis was in there, I mean, it would have been ugly with Wilson and Keon catching all, Coleman catching all kind of balls. I mean, it would have been rough. The run game, we couldn't have keyed in on the run game like we did because we would have had to focus some on the pass. It would have been ugly. Our line got dominated on offense. So the transfer portal opens at midnight. I think that's a really vital that we get this one. We've heard a lot of hype about, we're going to kill it in the portal, but I will say, I think the biggest concern I have, besides the offensive line, the amount of replacements we have to do, my biggest concern is, like, we can't go through another year with a game manager quarterback or an injury-prone quarterback. Neither one of those are things we need to be doing. But, I mean, I think his name's pronounced Tyler Shuck. And I've been saying Shout. and I guess that's wrong, but it literally looks like shall, but Shuck. Tyler Shuck out of Texas A&M or Texas Tech, excuse me. That's the name that keeps coming up.
Texas Tech, yeah, whatever.
That's the name that keeps coming up. I know there's players on a team that think that that's probably going to be the guy. They don't always know for sure if that's going to be they don't always know who the next guy is going to be, but they're also very close to the program. So, you have to kind of take it seriously and look at it as at least a potential option. That makes me nervous. I don't know about you guys. We talked about it a little bit on the last pod, but while he has all the tools to be a really good quarterback, he's never been healthy. And because he's never been healthy, he hasn't gotten a whole lot of experience, not enough to even with him being in his 7th year, it's like he's hardly played. So that worries me, guys, because that means that we have to have one of these young guys develop very fast this offseason if we don't want to have the same problem we had this year where we have all these skilled players. We have a good, not great, but good offensive line, and we don't do anything. We don't do as much as we could because we're limited by the most important position in all sports. And I guess for me, look, I love everything the Brahms have done since they got here, but I am surprised that we're not going to be able to land a better quarterback if it ends up being Tyler Shuck. And that's no disrespect to him. He's just super injury prone. And when you have 6 years of data backing you up, it's hard for me to just say, well, maybe we just get lucky and he plays every game next year. Maybe.
Then Jack,
but there's no evidence to suggest that.
Jack did have an injury history.
Jack did.
Here's my take on that. But before I go into it, macro, to answer your question, Ruben Bain and Ruben Owens are not in the portal yet. So we don't know how that's going to go.
Well, they can't, can they?
Yet.
Well, Ruben Owens can.
Yet. We haven't heard of anything that would suggest they're going in, but you never know how that goes. That could change on a dime. Kyle, I know me and you kind of got into not necessarily an argument, but a debate on that recently with Shuck, and it was under my kind of interpretation that he was going to be a backup option, and not necessarily a backup to a better prospect, but like he would come in as a number 2 quarterback, and then they would still pursue another number 1. As kind of more info is starting to roll in, I'm starting to change my opinion on that a little bit. I am starting to think that he could possibly be the number 1 guy. The thing with Tyler Shuck, and this is just from the little bit that we've got to kind of watch, learn, kind of, try to get some intel. He is really talented. He really is. He's talented, and you could see it. I went back and watched a little bit of his tape, a little bit of highlights. His Oregon highlights and tape from his early in his career is actually really impressive. He looks like Justin Herbert almost. It's kind of crazy.
He was Justin Herbert's backup when Justin Herbert got hurt.
He was, and he kind of looks just like Justin Herbert in a way. But you bring up the injury history. It's very concerning. It's very concerning, and they're injuries that they just take a toll on your body, and they're tough. It's not like just nagging ankle injuries. It's like breaking stuff. So
he broke his collarbone twice,
I think, and then fibula right this year.
Whichever one is the least. This is going to sound bad. Least concerning.
Yeah, I've read that it would put him out like 6 to 8 weeks. It wasn't the most severe one to break, but still, it's like it's concerning. So to me, if Shuck is the guy, that means one of 2 things, in my opinion, that the staff feels good about Pierce and Brady to be able to play next year, and that they can bring in Shuck as the number 1 guy. If he does happen to get hurt, they can turn to one of them. Or what I mentioned, and maybe this is still the case, but I'm starting to not think so, that Shuck is just a number 2 guy, and they're still going to try to pursue a real number 1, or not necessarily a real number 1, but a higher rated or more thought of number 1 guy, like a Cam Ward, for example. We've heard some rumors here and there. Can't confirm how real they are just yet, but
he is in the portal though.
He will be.
Last I heard is we really wanted him, but it would be a hell of a battle to get him.
It would definitely be one hell of a battle.
And you're going to have to fight Oregon to get him. Oregon wants him. I know that Oregon wants him unless they want somebody more, which I've not heard. But I'm not a huge Oregon guy. I've just heard Oregon really wants him, and if they really want him, prioritize him. I don't see how we can compete with that.
Here, and this is just from what I know. Oregon's collective is actually getting sued right now by 32 female athletes alleging Title IX lawsuit because female athletes are not being treated on the same level of money caliber as the male student athletes. So that may be one deciding factor of Cam Ward actually going there because they may not have the money to pay him at Division Street. Just a thought.
That'd be great for us, but there's obviously
There's going to be a lot more suitors, though, is the problem.
And I mean, we keep hearing Tyler Shuck for a reason, and I've started to learn when you keep hearing it, and then like when there's pushback from certain people, when you start to kind of say like, this isn't really a great idea, and then all of a sudden you start hearing all these. I guess I'm to the point where like I want a quarterback where we don't have to explain why it's a good take. Like we don't have to like look for reasons like, well, in the time he played, he did really, or, he is a 7th-year guy, maybe he can do this, or maybe he's being brought in as a backup because, or maybe the staff that we have the quarterbacks that we have on the roster are going to be really good. And so we don't really need a good quarter. Like, I don't want all those things. I want it to be a guy where we're like, this is a Jeff Brom quarterback. He can help us next year. We almost landed a guy like that last portal offseason, and it fell through at the end. He decided to stay where he was. Michael Pratt was a guy that we really had on our radar, but he's decided he's going to go pro from all indications, so that takes him out of the equation. And, I mean, we heard Tyler Van Dyke, but, he's got some issues too, although he's got an injury history as well, and he's been hurt with a unique injury of his own. I would probably lean towards taking him a little bit more just because I feel like this.
He has a less major injury history.
Nothing against Tyler Shuck. Seriously, he might be a great kid and he's got all the tools like Ty said. But it's like you can't expect him to play any more than 6 games. And if he does, great. But then you've got to have like a plan B for him, which you have to have anyway. But it's just more likely, I feel like. So I guess like I'm watching Jack Plummer last night, and it's like all year we've all debated like how good or not good is Jack Plummer. Sometimes he probably got more heat than he deserved. And I mean, at the very beginning of the year, I was so fed up with him after a couple of games, but he played well at times and he still didn't fully win me over. But then like he had his moments like the Boston College and Miami games, for example, where he played really well. And then like against Duke, where he didn't do a whole lot, but he did what he needed to do in that game as we ran down their throats. So, and in the Notre Dame game, I mean, he played pretty well in that game for all things considered. He wasn't a star, but he didn't need to be. Jawar Jordan took that game over for the most part, as did some other guys. So I bring all that up to say, like, at the end of the day, I feel like at times we were up and down on Jack Plummer, but the Florida State game kind of solidified it for me. We have a deficiency at that position. I also look at UK, losing to UK, although Jack didn't have a terrible game. He had a horrible play that really hurt us in that game. And in the last 25 years, believe this, we have only beat UK one time in the last 25 years with a quarterback that wasn't drafted in the NFL. And that's not the only reason that we've been losing to UK, but it's a big part of it. And, Kyle Boland came in for Reggie Bonifon and took over, and we won. I believe it was 44-40. I believe it was 2014, but don't quote me on this.
That was when Devontae got that Mosta kid in the end zone to win the
game. Yes, and it was awesome. That's it. You look at every other quarterback. You go back to like Chris Redmond, Dave Ragone, Stephon LaFours, Brian Brom, Teddy Bridgewater, Lamar Jackson. Those are the guys that have beat UK. What do all those guys have in common? They were all drafted in the NFL. And it's not that the UK game is the only game, but my God, we got to beat those guys. We have to beat those guys. So what I don't want to see us do is go into next year with some high-risk, injury-prone QB1 if the guys underneath him don't make tremendous leaps and bounds this offseason. And I'm a little nervous about that because Brock Doman was our second quarterback on the depth chart. And he's got a lot of limitations himself. Good kid, but not a quarterback one for a contender and not somebody you want to take out there and play UK. We already saw what that was like last year. It didn't work. And so I guess, and I know Pierce is the exception there because he's probably low on the depth chart because they're redshirting him. So there's no reason to put him way up on the depth chart. But it does make me a little concerned. Brady Allen, Harrison Bailey are behind Brock Doman. Some people argue that's probably just because, Brock has experience, but they're probably not the better quarterback. I just can't buy that the Brahms. I just can't buy that either one of them would be okay with not starting their second best quarterback on the roster. Like
I think
something
experience
happens
matters.
to Jack, it just doesn't make sense to me. So all that being said, I'm going to sum it up by saying, like, I don't want to go into next year with a quarterback that can't pick up, that can't open up the offense, that can't make defenses really contest the pass and focus on it. I don't want that. I want us to open up this offense. I don't want to be limited by that position.
I understand that argument. I wanted to mention this when you were bringing up Jack Plummer. People are going to say that they think that he was a failure or that we could have done a lot better. And, maybe, but at the same time, you need to have a little context here. Jack Plummer was number 2 in the ACC in passing yards this year, only behind Drake May, who's going to go top 10 in the NFL draft. And
I'm not suggesting to the Bears at 4.
I'm not suggesting that Jack Plummer is going to go play in the NFL. I'm not suggesting that, but that's the only guy that was ahead of him. That was the only guy. That's ahead of Jordan Travis, who only played one less game than him. He was third actually in passing touchdowns. That's only behind Drake May, who again is going to be a top 10 pick of the draft, and Haynes King. I understand that Jack had his limitations. He's not an elite passer. He's not an elite quarterback, but he was above average when you take a look at it. And I know that people are only going to really look at last night and they're going to draw a lot of conclusions from that. And they're going to remember a lot of the bad plays, but there was a lot of good ones in there too. And there needs to be a little bit of context. We were picked, and Steve UL Cards bring this up. We were picked 8th preseason in the ACC. We played in the ACC title game, and we're 15th in the college football playoff rankings,
Facts.
and we're back to relevancy. So this it's been up and down. We've had a few moments that we let get away from us, but this has been a successful season. This has been a good year. This is a good kickstart to the Braum era.
And Jack did exactly what we
Brady
wanted
Braum's
him to do.
tweet. Let's see this one.
Wait, what? Brady Braum? What?
Yeah, anytime you say Brady Braum tweet, like that's what I'm doing right now. Everybody stops what they're doing.
We got OVs this week.
Hey, RJ Oben, I saw that he may visit. Duke defensive end. Now look, Ruben Bain would be a beast. RJ Oben as an edge opposite Ashton.
Is that the kid from Duke?
That's a kid from Duke, and his father was a Louisville Legacy offensive lineman.
I could see that actually. I wanted to mention that last week that RJ Oben. So Brady Braum's tweet. You want to pull it up? Let me pull it up.
Brady is at the Gulp House.
Yep, I'm pulling it up.
Which is where all the OVs stay. So
I need to fix our banners here. Hold on. Bam.
Yeah. Difference maker starting to pull up. So literally portal opens at midnight. They got them posted up waiting to.
Nah, listen, the grad transfers that are already in there, they can go on visits whenever they want.
Oh, I assumed he was talking about like the.
What happened to my tweet?
You got to do 3. Hold on, 3 personal. Oh, I don't know.
But to go back to Jack, like Jack did exactly what we wanted him to do. Like, he ran the Braum offense exactly how we needed him to. He won us 10 games. Like,
yeah,
he was the game manager quarterback that we all thought he was going to be. Like he didn't have time yesterday to game manage the game.
I think some fans, yeah, I see what you mean, Connor. I think some fans are just, I think they're, what is the word I'm looking for?
They don't critically watch football.
Well, that, or they're just, we've had so many great quarterbacks in the past, right? We've had Teddy Bridgewater's, Brian Brahms, Lamar Jackson's, and you just kind of get used to that. And Jack is not them, but he's also not Adam Froman, and he's not Justin Burke. Like,
Hey.
You know what I mean?
My uncle coach was the head coach for Justin Burke in high school. He's a good kid.
At Catholic?
Yep. Bob Spire.
So his great aunt goes to church with my grandparents.
Probably.
And when Justin was on the staff, he got us tickets to the Cincy Rain game. I want to say it was like 2012.
Oh, yeah.
On a Friday night. Sound about right?
Mm.
Yeah. Like Justin Burke, great person. Not a great quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like, we're not going to sit here and shame like any quarterback. We're just saying like, hey, I think the big thing with the quarterback for the future is Jack Plummer debate aside, like Coach Brom and Brian as well. Jeff and Brian, both coaches, both of the Broms are known as former successful quarterbacks here. They've had success with quarterbacks, getting them to the NFL. Aiden O'Connell starting right now for the Raiders, and he was a walk-on.
And that's a big deal, by the way. That's a big deal.
That's huge. But I think there is some, and I always try to look at all the points. Like I definitely hear the point of like, let's just let this ride, trust the coaching staff. Jack wasn't as bad as some people think. His last game was terrible, but the offensive line was also terrible, and he also had some good games, and we won 10 games. All of that is valid. I think some of the angst, though, is I think if you would have told me, hey, we are going to recruit one portal position and knock it out of the park every single year. You can only pick one. I think everybody, when he was hired,
quarterback
would have said it's going to be the quarterback.
Yeah.
So you start to hear, Jack Plummer, it's unfortunate that the option we had fell through. And so it made sense. You're scrambling. It was his first offseason. So I think people are like, okay, we understand. But now there's some angst because of what we saw against Florida State. And I think some people at least are like, okay, I'm not liking the names I'm hearing in the portal. And I thought we were going to do better than that. And I think my thing I would like to see is there not a G5 quarterback out there, group of five?
JMU's quarterback is in the portal.
Well, he's going IU most likely with that staff. But, I mean, you need to reach out, I think, in my opinion. I would anyway, just to see, like, is there any chance?
You got to at least kick the tires on it.
Kick the tires. But there's other guys. Like, is there nobody at that level that's really good besides Michael Pratt? Besides Michael Pratt, who's going pro. Is there nobody that wants to move up to that next level that we think has all the tools and skill sets? Because you get guys in the group of five all the time that end up being really good quarterbacks that just weren't recruited very well out of high school. I mean, Louisville made a living on developing guys when they were in Conference USA. So, it's just one of those things. Is there just nobody there? Because do we have to go to Power 5 and find like a second string quarterback or an injury prone guy? Like, is there not, or a guy that got benched halfway or towards the end of the year and has an injury issues of his own? Like, is there not a guy at that level? Like, Cam Moore's tough, but is there not a guy at the group of five?
Give me New Mexico State's quarterback.
I was going to mention him. He actually looked pretty good the other day.
Yeah. Liberty's quarterback, really good.
Russell, I see you said, is it better to get a guy for a year or let Pierce or Deuce play and get experience? I definitely think it's better to go get one out of the portal, let him play for a year.
Learn from the guy that's been playing for 3-4 years already.
I think we all know that we are huge fans of Deuce Adams here on this podcast, and I think he's got all the potential in the world.
Yeah.
I just don't want to see him have to be thrown in a situation where he's playing a lot his freshman year.
It's a tough schedule too.
And Pierce, he's also going to be somewhat in the same boat, although he's had this year to sit back and watch. You can't forget about Brady Allen as well. So I think the best option would definitely be go get someone out of the portal, let him play for a year. Let Brady, Pierce, Deuce kind of battle it out for QB2, QB3.
Yeah.
And kind of go from there. So yeah, I definitely think the portal would be the better option.
To touch on some other things, we talked about quarterback a lot. I think offensive line is going to be a priority. I see Macro saying he's worried about replacing Ashton Gelati.
You don't think tight end will be number one priority?
Yeah, tight end's number one priority. What do you mean?
Well, yeah, I know. Well, and tight end is a big priority. I don't get into the I feel like I know what you're all talking about, but I just feel like some people say priority, and I think they mean the position as a whole will have the most guys that they're going after. I think we will try to get
line. What do you?
I think we will try to get 2 tight ends. So I don't know. I'm not too. That's semantics to me, but I want to get to Macro's point here. He says, I'm worried about replacing Ashton Gelati, Quincy Riley, and Brian Hudson.
Ashton ain't leaving, bro. Ashton is staying.
I'm not worried about him leaving, Macro, believe it or not. It's not that he couldn't leave. I just don't think he's going to based on everything we're hearing. That could
Quincy
change.
Might come back.
That could change, but I'm very confident it won't. Quincy Riley, that's a tough loss, but we have a lot of talented guys in the wings. You know, Aaron Williams out of Bosco. You got
Marcus Washington
out of
MKG,
Georgia,
or MGK,
MGK out of Texas A&M, and they have all the skill sets. Now, does that translate? I don't know, and I'm not saying they'll be as good as Quincy Riley, who I believe is the best cornerback we've had since Jair left. Mm-hmm. But that being said, I think they can be really good. Brian Hudson, I have nothing for that one. That's a tough loss.
It's going to be damn near impossible to replace a guy like Brian Hudson.
That's a tough loss. And, I mean, it is what it is. Got to find a way. I think you got to hit the portal, find a new center who's an instant impact, but easier said than done. But, you know.
Hey, they might be at the Gold House right now for all we know.
I got my 502 Circle shirt on. We gotta hope that we've got all the funds we need to lure some of these guys in. You know.
Here, I'm gonna go on a 502 Circle rant here for a second.
Collins can't play center clutch. That is correct, but I don't know if he'll be Brian Hudson.
But so for all you all that don't know what the 502 Circle is, I hope that you do. If you don't, 502circle.com. Go look it up. They do, if not all, most of the NIL deals that go through for all Louisville sports, not just football, not just basketball, not just women's basketball. If you could care less about football, but you want baseball to go win a national championship, donate to baseball. That's fine. But if we can get how many fans did we average this year at a football game? 55?
52.
If you can get 52,000 people to donate $10 a month to the 502,
you already lost me. There's too much math.
I think it's 525,000, but it could be 5. Yeah, I don't know. Too many zeros.
Yeah. Here, let me do the math. Hold on.
That's a starting corner, or that's a starting running back.
It's $520. It's $520,000.
And that gets Cam Ward a phone call.
Hell yeah.
but
we'll get to email Arch Manning for that.
But that's $520,000 that can go into 502 Circle, and you can donate it directly to football.
Hey, if you raise $1 million, Caleb Williams will like a Louisville football Twitter post. He will actually like it and he will put his finger on the heart, and it will show up on his feed.
But if you want to have a great team, if you want to be able to compete with the Georgia, Alabama, Texas, A&M, Florida State, those teams of the world, that it is what it is at this point.
Yeah.
NIL is here to stay. It's not going anywhere until we start rev sharing with student athletes, which is coming down the line, but that's a whole nother story for a different day. You be all into 502 Circle. If you can donate, do it. You can go 502circle.com, hit contribute now, and you can set it up for a one-time donation, a monthly donation, a yearly donation, anywhere from $5 to I think it's like $50,000.
Infinity.
So if you can, do it. Please do.
Yeah, I did my 50,000 last week. It was nah. If you could do it, like Connor was saying, if you can do it, and you want to see it successful and to help pull in some of the best players. Like that's just how it is. That's how it's going to be. So if you could do it, do it. I know some people it's tough, with holidays and money and everything's tough now, but if you can and you care about Louisville sports and Louisville football, basketball, all of them, that's the way to go.
And when you do the contribute now, you hit the drop down box that says choose what team you wanted to go to, hit football.
We got a whole tutorial on the Third Banner Pod.
It is not hard.
Maybe they'll put this on there as a tutorial on their website, and they'll just be like, all right, well, Connor's going to walk him through. He's on, or midway, we're an hour and a half into this episode 40, whatever, of Third Banner Pod, and they'll clip that out and put it right in there, and that'll be a tutorial.
Listen, I know the guys at 502 Circle. I know they're great. I know the guys at Base Path that run 502 Circle on the tech side. They're great. Like, 502 Circle is in good hands. And will help us in the future if we want to keep winning 10 games a year, 11 games a year, ACC championships, and go to the playoff.
If you want Arch Manning, donate to the 502 Circle.
He'll join a Zoom call if you get at least 6 figures.
He will respond to our fax if you send 50,000 right now.
All right, guys. Well, I think we've touched on everything. Unless you guys have more. Big week. Portal opens at midnight. I think Eastern time. Connor, maybe.
Midnight for every time zone. So
okay.
So at
There's
midnight
a huge
Eastern
entry, by the way.
So 1 hour, 28 minutes, and like 30 seconds. But who's counting?
Yeah,
I kind of want to bring. Can I bring this up for Macro before we get off real quick? I actually had it up. Hold on.
Oh, is it the Texas A&M guy?
Macro, I'm thinking of you, and I have a surprise for you, my guy. Hey, fix our banners. I'm pulling this tweet up.
If you want this guy, donate to the 502 Circle. And
Macro, get your pockets ready, pal, because I got something for you right here.
I know exactly where he's
Bam! Bam!
6'5", 300-pound D lineman. Donate to the 502 Circle right now.
Macro, tell me I don't do nothing for you, brother. Look at this right here.
Macro's probably sweating right now.
Oh. Macro is going through it right now. He's like,
hey,
man.
Macro, just picture him in red and black, but picture him in the Murder Bird uniforms.
Oh, man.
Picture him with Ruben Owens, too, because I need to talk to Ruben Owens about getting in the portal.
I so wish I was good with Photoshop. I'd put him in a Louisville jersey right now just for Macro.
All right. Well, we'll take that off and put our banners back.
Yeah.
Let's see. There it is. So anyway, I think we've touched on everything, guys. Portal opens soon. We should have on Wednesday. We should have a lot more information. We don't play in basketball again until DePaul on Saturday.
Yeah, that game's gonna be fucking.
We have almost a week to scout for the biggest game in the history of Louisville sports.
Churchill Boss is about to have like 30 points on Saturday.
I know at one time. Now listen, I know at one time, like we played teams like Syracuse and UConn in the old Big East, and it was like top 5, top 10 matchups. But there is no game with higher stakes than playing DePaul on Saturday, and we caught a break having all this time to prepare for this game.
Are we going to?
Churchill Boss hasn't forgotten that KP went all the way to Africa in the middle of portal season.
Please tell me you have the video.
Tell me he didn't want him.
Please tell me you have the Ross video queued up.
Never forget. # never forget.
I don't think we have that one.
Damn it.
I don't know that I have. Oh, in the videos that we got. Yeah, I don't think we have that.
We don't have that one. So anyway, Churchill Boss is waiting in the wings. He's been averaging 2 points a game, but you can bet he's going to drop a 30, 20, 10 triple-double, and the 10 will be 10 blocks. It's coming because he remembers KP took a plane, bought tickets, got on a plane, hiked like 5 miles, rode a camel the last 2 miles, stopped at the hut, got out and said, I just wanted to come here and let you know.
I have it. I found it on my phone. Does that count?
No, that won't play well. Yeah, I just want to let you know I came all the way here to tell you that I don't want you to play for Louisville basketball. All right. And I'll see you next year when you play for DePaul. in the biggest game in the history of Louisville basketball. So that being said, guys, we'll prepare for that. I think by Wednesday we'll have a lot more to talk about as far as portal recruiting goes. And thank you guys. Feel free to like and subscribe if you're a first-time listener, or if you've been on here and just have not liked and subscribed, especially the subscribe part. That would be a sin if you've been on here multiple times. You want to repent, that's fine. All you got to do is click that little subscribe button. So thank you guys again. And until Wednesday night, about 9 o'clock, thank you again for watching the Third Banner Pod. I'll say it for Ross since he's not here. Go Cards, go Krogering.